Everybody, while I'm getting the presentation in place, I'm the only one now between you and the lunch. Hopefully the food for thought I leave behind will be worth the wait. Oh, ठीक है ना, F5 तो है. Okay. The topic that I am taking up before the lunch break is how to create an innovative workforce. There have been a lot of questions, and people tend to use the word innovation in a very loose way. Innovation seems to be equated either with creativity or with patent filing. We tend to compare a lot in terms of number of patents we file and all. In this particular session, I'd like to share with you a particular framework, a particular how to, and also hopefully some skills which can make innovation predictable, no matter whether you're an engineer who wants to come out with a new design, or you are a literary person who wants to write a new IP, which is poetry or maybe a story. Some of these skills have been used across the world, and we have introduced it in India. We are a corporate company, so we do consulting and training for many of our corporate clients. So I'd like to share with you some of the work and how it can be used from a university context. Before I move on to that, just allow me 3 minutes to introduce what my company does. I represent QAI. We are a management consulting firm, and we also have a training division. We were set up in US in 1980, so it's been more than 30 years now, by William Perry to spread awareness in a specialized area, quality assurance. It was a training institute to develop the workforce to bridge the skill divide between the academia and the industry. So it was set up with the intent of developing skills in the workforce. So our objectives have always been centered around workforce development. We've got clients spread across 35 countries. So all the management consulting firms, Accenture, Deloitte, and all are our clients because we are a very niche player. All the biggies in terms of, like some companies mentioned, like TCS and Wipro, they are also our clients. Some of the areas where we focus, where we feel the skills can be developed to bridge the divide between the academic world and the industry world, because this is where our clients come back and say, can you provide us a ready-made workforce which has acquired a certificate from college, but they don't have the necessary skills to be effective in the job. Can you provide them something like a vocational program from a service industry point of view? And these are some areas where we train people on project management, quality, testing, and software quality assurance, and in general also quality assurance and innovation. The topic of my presentation is innovation, and which is what I'll be focusing on. These are the other areas where we also provide certifications. Some of the clients where we have been providing services for a long time now, they are spread across the world, as has been shown already. So from a university point of view, it is essentially that if these companies are accepting some of these methodologies and frameworks, how can we inculcate or embed that as part of the university environment so that the students become more employable? So I'll not be quoting statistics on employability and all. I'll be trying to share some practices, especially on innovation, how people can become stronger in their thinking and do effective PhDs, create knowledge. Dr. P.C. Mahalanobis in 1936 came out with the Mahalanobis distance, which is used by NASA. 1936, there was no India, no mother Google, no father Facebook, no internet. I don't even know who his teacher was. Dr. Taguchi came from Japan all the way to learn from him. Then he became the guru of design of experiments. And then we went to Japan to learn under Dr. Taguchi. And he said, why don't you go back to ISI, Indian Statistical Institute, and learn from where I learned? So what stops us from creating that IP? What went wrong after independence? Did we lose that sudden urge to innovate? What I'm presenting here is, if you want to be like those people, if you want to be innovative, there's a structured process. There are specific skills that we need to learn. And this is the emphasis which I want to lay in the next part of my presentation. So I've got a brief agenda. And I also want to share something about the program that we do. By the way, we are doing programs. What we realized was, since we go to corporate environment, we found that many of the people working out there could be equipped with better skills. So we said, let's move one level lower. And why not move to the university level and we are in the process now of signing MOUs. By April, we'll be launching some of these programs. So why not train people so that they become better people when they join a corporate workforce? And then we discovered, why not move one level lower? So now we are going to the K-12 segment also, because the skills run from 8 years to 80 years, just from rhyming purposes. Otherwise, if your mind works, you can be innovative at 95 also. Okay. This slide, I won't be spending too much time. I think a lot of our illustrious speakers earlier have already mentioned a lot. Essentially, what I want to highlight is, even though, yes, this statement, rising income, may not apply to everybody in India, but definitely there's a huge chunk of India where their rising incomes do apply, which means parents are willing to experiment and afford a better and a higher quality education. Globalization means more opportunities. So we just heard Salil Pandey, I think from IIT Kanpur, saying that he went to US and he gained a lot of knowledge and all. So I'm also from IIT Delhi, so I can relate to a lot of those IIT things coming, okay. Then there's a demographic shift, which is, we are very proud of our 200 years of past glory. Again, we live in the past or what, I don't know, but good, no, we got a good past. 200 years of past glory. We don't even realize we are right now sitting at a point of inflection where we as a country can create 200 years of future glory. So all the grouses that were mentioned earlier is actually an opportunity for us. Because if there was no negative, then there was no more positive to create. Somebody had already done the good job. So rather than feeling depressed, so what Professor Pillai has been saying since morning, no, let's be optimistic. Let's not give up. There are ways to arrive at solutions. Some of those innovative ideas which were presented earlier, I really loved that because people are trying to work within the constraints, which means these are the people who are the innovators of today. We are just not recognizing it. Maybe you'll read about them 50 years later, like Dr. Mahalanobis and all, but they're sitting in front of you. These are the innovators who are trying to work within the constraints. So let's try to create the future. So the need for all of us to get it right now is critical because this is where the future resides. It's good to look at glory in the past. Let's create the future glory for India. A lot of emphasis has been laid on technical skills, which is required. But there is one skill which, like I've been emphasizing, seems to be largely unaddressed from an educational point of view, and which I've emphasized more from a thinking point of view. So our humble submission here is, we need something called an innovation quotient, which goes beyond your IQ and EQ. That's our humble submission, and let me just take you forward on this particular thought. How many of us learned how to think? Controversial question. I got a simple answer, all of us. So in case your blood pressure was going up, are you going to teach me how to think? No. We all learned how to think, so I'm not saying that we have not learned how to think. Let me ask you the next question. How many of us learn to think outside the box? Now, I won't make any comments. I'll leave it to you to read the particular cartoon and make your own judgment and assessment of how many of us actually learn to think outside the box. We are mostly demanding our people. I see senior management saying, guys, we need to think outside the box. We have to differentiate ourselves. Here we're talking universities differentiating and competing. Out there in the corporate world, people are differentiating their mobile from another mobile phone. Notebook from another notebook. It's a commodity world out there. Think outside the box, but what does it mean? How to do? There is a systematic way, no random brainstorming. I'm not talking creativity workshops. There are skills which can be systematically developed, and these programs are being run across the world, in Europe and in US and Australia also. Being a subject matter expert may not be good enough to sometimes help you solve the problems you may be facing or the situations you encounter. You may be the best of and best engineer, you may have learned design and dimensioning, but when it comes to a tricky problem where there is no prescripted answer, you need to generate solutions there and then. There's no book or professor. So when we talked about consultancy, this is a challenge. We need to resolve those issues which the industry is facing, and we need to come out with different ways of doing things, not just copy practices from the West or the East, depending on which country is in favor. Let me give you an example. Some of you may say, I am not related